6 p.m. in Garoua in the north region of Cameroon. Same time right here in the economic capital city, Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 6 p.m. edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. Several persons living in Madakonai and Gadua, two border villages in the Mayosava division, Fana region, are now stranded after their houses got destroyed in the course of an intercommunity conflict. Tonight, we'll be taking you to the affected villages where victims will be recounting some of their ordeals. And away from that, we'll tell you how, despite the rising cost of living, the head of state, President Paul Biya, signs an ordinance amending the December 2023 law, raising civil stamp duties. The stamp duty for a national identity card jumps from 2,800 francs to 10,000 francs CFA. Many believe the application of this decision will further compound the challenges faced by Cameroonians who have waited for several years, with others still waiting for the ID cards to be issued. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. At least 9 houses have been destroyed, leaving several families stranded as a result of an inter-community conflict between two border villages, that is, Madakonai and Gandua, border villages in the far north region of Cameroon. Victims are currently in need of food, shelter, and water, as Malagla recounts their ordeals.
Sawalda is a victim and a native of Madakonai whose 9 huts were completely burned by neighboring villages 2 weeks ago in a confrontation. His family and 25 others, including 10 children, are now stranded. This is as a result of a land dispute between two border villages, Madakonai and Gadua, in the Mayosava and Mayotanaga division, far north region.
Aussi, et là aussi, on ne sait pas où on va aller. Avec ma famille, j'ai 10 enfants, avec ma mère, tout ça, je ne sais même pas que je vais dormir.
Local authorities fear the situation might get worse if nothing is done.
Il faudrait que l'administration aille très vite pour prendre une décision claire et nette. La situation là est survenue à cause du litige foncier. Maintenant, est-ce qu'ils vont rester chez eux? On ne sait pas. Parce que s'ils arrivent maintenant qu'ils viennent, la situation va encore recommencer.
The senior divisional officer for Mayotanaga division, in response, provided some foodstuff as assistance to victims and also promised government intervention.
Son Excellence, le gouverneur de la région de l'extrême nord, va bientôt mettre sur pied une commission régionale chargée du règlement du litige frontalier entre le département de Mayosava et le département de Mayotanaga. D'ici peu, ce problème ne sera qu'un lointain souvenir.
Residents blame the administrative authorities for this clash, which has caused them their properties. They say the assistance is not enough to end their suffering, but sustainable measures be put in place to bring lasting solutions between both villages.
Malaglari reporting there. Now we talk something else. Chiefs of Bomono, a locality in the Lithra region, have debunked all allegations in connection to the illegal sale of lands. Their reaction comes after some inhabitants accused their chiefs of selling out lands without their consent. The chiefs therefore decided to organize a meeting with natives to clear the air about the situation, as Ase Luciliengu reports.
Natives of the 9 villages which makes up Bomono in the littoral region for some time have been at loggerheads with their chiefs. They are accused of selling out a portion from the 207 hectares given to them by the state.
Donc il ne s'est passé aucune vente.
Debunking these allegations, the 9 chiefs called for an urgent meeting to clarify their people.
Donc, le terrain qui a été cédé et qui fait beaucoup
Simon Pierre Koto, chief of Bomonoma Bengetu, says no land has been sold, that the 9 chiefs only agreed to acquire land titles and site plans. The traditional rulers assure their people that they are working to safeguard the interests of the children of Bomono.
Mais nous sommes en train de mener des actions pour que l'intérêt de chaque enfant soit sauvegardé.
The chiefs of Bomono urge the population to nurture trust and feel free to express their preoccupations for solutions.
And now to our major lead story. The Delegate General for National Security, Martin Bangagile, assures Cameroonians that identity cards will be soon produced within 48 hours. His announcement comes at a time when Cameroonians have been battling to obtain original copies of their identity cards. This comes at a time when the stamp duty for an ID card leaps from 2,800 francs to 10,000 francs, as Innocent Aze reports.
Parliamentarians in Cameroon say till date they have not received on their table the ordinance of the head of state showing increase in the cost of acquiring the national identity card. While awaiting this new development, that is, rise in the cost of ID card production, Cameroonians seem to be wrestling against such an ordinance already. The International Consumers Association, in a communique, rebukes moves aimed at violating the fundamental rights of Cameroonians. About the ordinance in question, 3,500 francs will be needed to establish the certificates of nationality, 2,000 francs for a certified copy of the birth certificate, and 10,000 francs CFA for stamps. It should be recorded that the Delegate General for National Security laid the foundation stone of the ID card production center in Yaoundé. Same ceremony took place in Douala and Garoua. The government stated that ID card production will be done in 48 hours.
Innocent Aze reporting there. Meantime, Cameroonians on the streets of Douala have recounted pathetic stories and horrible experiences gathered in the process of to acquire or be issued a Cameroonian national identity card. Among them are users who have been waiting for over 5 years to be issued their permanent national identity. The wait has not only been long but characterized by an uneasy seasonal scramble to renew the validity of the temporal identity document, as Fomi Armstrong Sanda reports.
61-year-old Papai Loka Abre is one of the many Cameroonians with pathetic experiences in their quest to acquire a Cameroonian national identity card. He has visited the police station several times for the permanent national identity card, which he requested in 2021, but all he gets is a police stamp extending the validity of his temporal identity document. Like him, this other Cameroonian says his temporary national identity document has had to be extended more than 10 times. He is not alone in this category. This Cameroonian economic operator resident in Douala say Cameroonian authorities have been unable to issue his national identity card for over 5 years.
ID card, that was 2019. Till now, nothing has yet shown. I've moved left and right every day to the police station. Nothing. Have we abandoned the ID card section or department, or I don't know?
A situation that has had an enormous impact on his economic and social activities.
If I'm having any connection with my business partner, I am unable even to take a check from him and go to bank and collect money. At times you travel like this, along the way they will train you up as if you are just a child. Are they even renewing it? Nothing. When you just go there, they just go in the box, they touch 1 or 2 old ID card. The next answer that they will give you is to put stamp on the paper and give you.
4 times, more than 4 times. With your card, it's not easy to exchange with client or customer or bank to sign a contract or anywhere. No, it's not possible.
Yeah. Affirming that a greater majority of Cameroonians share same pathetic stories and challenging experiences, they express their hopes that Cameroonian authorities take genuine redemption measures.
In the same vein, the government of Cameroon says they are committed to resolve the woes and cracks that have characterized the production and issuance of national identity cards in the country for years now. Conscious of the long issuance period, faulty production and obsolescence in the system, the government has announced the creation of 3 major production centers starting with Douala, which comprises of 25 posts and 10 regional centers. In this report done by Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
The promise to establish a national identity card production center in Douala was made on September the 29th, 2023 by the Delegate General for National Security while inaugurating the Biometric Passport Center in the city.
Monsieur le Président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, vient d'autoriser pour la mise en place d'un nouveau système de délivrance de la carte nationale d'identité.
This promise followed generated woes and cracks in the acquisition of national identity cards in Cameroon. The cracks that centered around the production and issuance system has seen many Cameroonians waiting for years and sometimes in vain for their national identity cards to be issued, even when the statutory wait time in Cameroon is 3 months. These problems, officials say, will be a thing of the past with the laying of the foundation stone for the construction of a national identity card production center in the city of Douala in the littoral region.
De résoudre les difficultés rencontrées par les citoyens camerounais dans l'acquisition de titres identitaires et principalement des cartes nationales d'identité.
While officiating the laying of the foundation stone, the governor of the littoral region, Governor Dieudonné Ivahadibois, said similar centers will be constructed in the cities of Yaoundé in the central region and Gawa in the north region. According to him, 58 other identification and registration centers will be raised in the divisional headquarters of Cameroon and the modernization of the current regional identification centers in the 10 regions of the country. The governor also said that Cameroon plans to establish some 25 identification posts across the national triangle.
And now to education, the Ministry of Basic Education has indicated that more than 1 million school-going age children are in need of humanitarian assistance in Cameroon. Laurent Serge Etundingwa made the declarations during a follow-up meeting with officials of UNICEF to evaluate a project put up by the 2 institutions to assist school-going age children in the country. Out of the $75 million needed to meet up with the project's objectives, just $25 million is available. Smajikan Gabriel tells us more.
According to the Ministry of Basic Education, 1.9 million children of school-going age need humanitarian assistance in education in the country. As per the Ministry of Basic Education, 496,643 are internally displaced, drawn from the Anglophone crisis in the southwest and northwest region, as well as the Boko Haram insurgents in the far north region. 307,008 are returning children. 639,924 are children drawn from different communities, while 454,854 are refugees coming from neighboring countries. Faced with this situation, the government and the United Nations Education Agency have since 2002 put in place a program which targets children in crisis-hit regions. For now, 91,161 have already been touched by the program. We have ameliorated educational infrastructures with the construction of some schools. We've provided water in schools, which has increased the performance rate of kids. Notwithstanding the work done, some questions still remains unanswered, as out of $75 million needed to reach 450,000 children, just $25 million has been given to the agencies concerned. For the government, if the necessary finance is not available, they risk getting it from the state coffers. The projects are that of Cameroon. We can't definitely allow it to fall. When we don't have the means, the head of state will do all through the budgeting session to have a means to achieve it its objectives.
La plupart de ces réalisations.
This will happen if the request for finance by Cameroon from its partners doesn't yield fruit.
And now to something else. Cameroon joins the world today to commemorate World Music Day. However, some artists in Cameroon have been criticized for not using this powerful tool to criticize some irregularities carried out by those in power, as Seji Chakutio tells us. Mix up. Now we take something else. A cyber activist calls on an anti-corruption institutions in Cameroon to punish government officials and other state agents found guilty of malpractices in the award of public contracts. He has done a research revealing several irregularities in the procedures of award of public contracts in Cameroon. Babla Jonathan has greater details.
This is horrible. It's happening all the time.
Cyber activist and member of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform, engineer Remy Tassing, decries irregularities in the award of public contracts in Cameroon.
I started seeing like patterns, people coming, once, twice, 3 times with different company names. And winning like hundreds of millions of contracts.
He also highlights the segmentation of contracts into many phases. According to him, this facilitates embezzlement and other unorthodox and unlawful practices.
You will see a company that works in public works, and then it will be like getting medical equipment. You have companies that were excluded from public tenders for like 2 years, but a few months later they are winning contracts. You have many cases of collusion, so you might have multiple companies that are bidding for the same tender, but behind it's the same person, because they share phone. You can find clues, phone numbers, postal addresses, and so on and so forth.
Another side of the coin is what Remy Tassing calls collusion.
You have cases of local elected officials like mayors who have companies, and at the end they award themselves contracts. You have cases of people in the parliamentarians who win public contracts. Few of them have won contracts for in the case of COVID Gate. Recently I published a list of over 200 public servants who have been winning public contracts.
He is urging institutions created and established to fight such ills, including the Supreme State Audit, the Audit Bench of the Supreme Court, and the National Anti-Corruption Commission, to sit up and press for an end to these illegal practices.
Babla Jonathan, ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Once more, thank you so much for staying with us. Cameroonians were taken by surprise following the signing of an ordinance amending the December 2023 law raising various stamp duties. Tonight, I'll be receiving a civil society actor and we'll be discussing about this recent increase. Good evening, Mark. It is a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Immaculate Fogoy. It's a pleasure for me to be here too.
I'd like to know from you, what do you think about the increase in the cost of obtaining an identification card in Cameroon?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear that the head of state has signed a decree that has to be sent to Parliament for adoption, the first thing that comes in my mind is Cameroon is plagued with so many problems now, and the government needs money in order to be able to meet up with their demands. And there is war in the northern part of Cameroon, there is war in Nous, and the government needs money to keep pushing to see how they can repair back assailants that come in from the northern part of the country, the Boko Haram, and to deal with the Anglophone crisis. So they need money, and when you see the scramble of Cameroonians at the various commissariats looking for means to make their ID cards, you understand that government knows that if they add something to this sector, they add taxes, they will make a lot of money. And because of the massive exodus too, for Cameroonians that are scrambling to go for greener pastures abroad, government knows that if they implement this, they will make some good money from Cameroonians who are struggling to leave the country.
Now, is explanation in the ordinance of the President of the Republic convincing to you?
Actually, it's not convincing, Immaculate, because Cameroonians are suffering a lot. Instead of looking for means to alleviate the sufferings of Cameroonians, they are instead looking for means to strangle the Cameroonians. So I think this is not a time to increase taxes. We are just from increasing taxes, and people are crying on a daily basis. People are unable to have even 1 square meal a day now. Some people manage to beg food, and yet they keep increasing taxes at all sectors. I think at the end of the day, Cameroonians are going to be pushed to the wall in such a way that they will only have to come out in their numbers to say no to the government, because times are hard. There is no farm to market roads. Some farmers who are even managing to farm are unable to even transport their goods to the market. So it brings a lot of poverty within the Cameroonian society. But all government can do is to see how they can squeeze money out of people's pocket. I think it's a very bad idea. This is not a time to be increasing something on taxes. I think what the government should be doing now, or President Biya should be doing now, is to intensify the fight against corruption, the fight against what you call détournement de deniers publics, embezzlement. So I think that is what the head of state should be looking at. If they collect all this money that some ministers have embezzled, I think it will go a long way to answer the problems of the country. What President Biya is trying to do while he's increasing taxes in order to raise money to solve some certain problems, I think this money is in individuals' pockets, and he should intensify that fight in order to recover some of this money and solve some of the problems that are plaguing Cameroon.
The ordinance is coming at a time when several Cameroonians have been decrying the fact that original copies of the identity cards take months, in most cases years, to be issued, as we saw in the reports done by Femi Armstrong Sander. Do you think the additional fee will be able to ease the issuance procedure?
I don't think so, because Cameroonians are unable, even with the 2,800 francs that it used to be the case, some people were not still able to go to the police stations to do their IDs because they did not have that money. Because you bear with me that it wasn't just 2,800 francs, because you had to start by making a certificate of nationality, compile some documents, your birth certificate and so on. You compile all these documents before you get to the stage of paying that 2,800 francs. But you understand that some Cameroonians were unable to raise up all these documents before getting to the stage of the commissariat where they will pay that 2,800 francs. So adding the money is just a means of scaring most of them to stay back at home, especially the ones that are in the suburbs who can barely have a square meal a day.
Are the authorities ignoring the low purchasing power of a high percentage of Cameroonians who make up the poor and low-income earners?
Of course course they do ignore. If not, how can you explain that the government knows that Cameroonians are suffering and every day they keep increasing taxes? Where do they expect these people to get the money to pay the taxes? You know that Cameroon is heavily indebted. Cameroon has borrowed money here and there, and they are not paying back this money. And you don't know what the money has served for. They borrow this money, some unscrupulous Cameroonians embezzle the money, put into their private pockets. All projects are uncompleted, and yet the money disappears. The projects are halfway done, and then at the end of the day, nothing is moving. And they keep pressing the necks of poor Cameroonians to raise money from where I don't know. So I think, Immaculate, it is time the government should think otherwise and see how they can recover. Keep insisting on it, because there is money in this country. The resources that Cameroon has is even more than the Cameroonian population, but we are still suffering. So government need to re-strategize to see how they can get back all the money that has been embezzled in order to solve the problems that are facing this country.
Yeah, recently we saw a bold and new generation of young Kenyan protesters emerging on the streets and forcing the government to back down on some unpopular tax proposals organized by political parties. But in Cameroon, government is increasing the price of almost everything, but everyone is silent. What's the way out of all these challenges?
The way out is protest. We pretend in Cameroon to be practicing democracy, whereas we are not practicing democracy. Going out to express your grievances is stated in the law, but when you dare, government send out soldiers to kill. In other countries, they will disperse the population, but in Cameroon, they will shoot to kill because they give them live bullets. So the population is scared to come out to explain or exhibit their grievances, which is their legitimate right, but they are scared because when you dare, they will kill you. Look at what has happened in Kumba. What happened in Kumba yesterday? Women came out in their numbers, protesting in the street, went to the right quarters to say enough is enough. We don't want drug dealers and those consuming the drugs in Kumba. It is too much because of the atrocities that these guys take drugs and cause in their various homes. So I think the best way is to come out and tell the government we are suffering. But in Cameroon, when you come out to tell the government you are suffering, they will crack down on you mercilessly, and before you know it, nobody will want to come out. When you start talking about something, oh, what should we do? Let us petition the government. You hear commonly in the quarter somebody will say, je veux voir mes enfants grandir, and it ends there. So you understand that we are living in a dictatorship where the intimidation from the government has put a lot of fears in the minds of Cameroonians. So everybody is just afraid to come out and express what he or she is going through.
Guamak, civil society actor, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. That's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more interesting programs. Coming up is Equinoxe 1, exactly 8 p.m. You have the news in the French language. Bye-bye for now.